Welcome back to our true crime series, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we explore the terrifying unsolved case that both investigators and families continue to be troubled by. This video explains Maria Ridulph's mysterious death and abduction. Join us as we explore the specifics of this heinous crime that has authorities stumped for decades. It was December 3, 1957, in the small town of Sycamore, Illinois. The neighborhood was enthused and eagerly anticipating the holiday season. One of them was Maria Ridulph, a young girl of 7 who was innocent and playful and had the rest of her life ahead of her. Maria was outside on that fateful evening, taking in the fresh winter air and the company of her family and neighbors. She spent time with several people, including Johnny, a young man who was a close friend of the Ridulphs. They had fun, laughed, and relished the simple pleasures of youth. A chilling presence infiltrated the scene as darkness descended. Unbeknownst to Maria and those around her, a dark force was waiting for a chance to strike in the area. It was on this otherwise unremarkable evening that Maria's life would change irrevocably. Witnesses claimed to have seen Maria and Johnny playing close to a street corner. Despite the impending tragedy that hung over them, they appeared to be having fun together. It was a night brimming with youth's carefree spirit, innocence, and laughter. But everything changed in a matter of minutes. Maria disappeared without a trace, shocking and alarming her family and friends. During the search for the missing person, the formerly idyllic neighborhood turned into a scene of confusion and despair. A grim reality started to dawn as the night grew later and the search went on. The community was shocked to learn that Maria's disappearance might not have been a straightforward case of wandering off. The initial hope for a speedy reunion started to be eclipsed by the possibility of something evil and unthinkable. Maria's family held on to the faint hope that she would be discovered safe and sound. However, as the minutes turned into hours, then into days, then into weeks, their optimism started to fade. The residents of Sycamore, whose spirit had once been vibrant, were bound by fear and terror. The town of Sycamore, Illinois, was overtaken by fear and uncertainty after Maria Ridulph vanished. Maria was last seen playing with a young man named Johnny, according to eyewitnesses, who raised suspicions about those close to the Ridulph family. Johnny, who had been regarded as a family friend, was the main subject of the inquiry. Authorities questioned him extensively in an effort to learn anything that might point them in the direction of Maria's whereabouts. The search for answers grew more intense as the days transitioned into weeks, but the mystery grew more complex. Residents of the town were suffering from a growing sense of unease. Their sense of security was shattered by the kidnapping of a young child, which made them fearful for the safety of their own loved ones. The neighborhood banded together, setting up search teams, handing out flyers, and pleading with anyone with information to come forward. Volunteers and law enforcement personnel thoroughly searched every square inch of the town in search of information that could lead them to Maria. But despite all of their efforts, the investigation was unsuccessful. 5 months later, a startling discovery was made, and the case took a dark turn. Maria Ridulph's remains were discovered on April 26, 1958, in a remote wooded area about 120 miles from Sycamore. The tragic news reverberated throughout the neighborhood, causing its residents to feel depressed and burdened. The once optimistic search for a missing girl had changed into a horrifying affirmation of her premature death. The community of Sycamore and beyond felt the shock of the discovery of Maria Ridulph's remains in that isolated wooded area. The town's sense of security was shattered when it became clear that such a heinous crime had occurred, leaving its residents in a state of profound grief and shock. The nation was riveted by the case as word of the tragedy spread. People all over the nation were moved by the horrific nature of Maria's kidnapping and murder, which sparked a shared desire for justice. Law enforcement organizations increased their efforts to find the perpetrator and apprehend him as the need for answers grew. The evidence that was gathered from the crime scene and Maria's remains was carefully examined by the authorities. Every detail was examined in the hopes of finding a crucial piece of information that would point them in the direction of the perpetrator of the unimaginable crime. But despite their diligent efforts, the investigation ran into many roadblocks. It was difficult to draw any firm conclusions because some of the physical evidence had been weakened by the passage of time. The once vibrant details of that fateful night had become hazy and uncertain due to witnesses' fading memories. The investigation's advancement was further hampered by the lack of contemporary forensic methods. Johnny, who had last been seen with Maria before she vanished, was one of the suspects that were located and interrogated. The case against Johnny, however, was insufficient because the evidence was only circumstantial. Maria's loved ones and the neighborhood were in desperate need of closure as the investigation into the matter appeared to come to a dead end. The investigation changed course as new leads appeared and old ones were revisited over the ensuing years. As new suspects surfaced, investigators relentlessly investigated every lead in their quest to bring Maria's killer to justice. The elusive truth, however, eluded them despite their best efforts. The loss of Maria left a lasting pain in the hearts of her loved ones. The unsolved crime left a permanent scar on Sycamore, a town that was once renowned for its small-town charm. The tragedy left a deep impression that reverberated for future generations, serving as a stark reminder that evil could infiltrate even the closest-knit communities. As the years went by, technological developments gave the possibility of a resolution to the case some hope. There are now new opportunities to revisit the long-ago collected evidence thanks to DNA testing and improved forensic techniques. Investigators and cold case units laboriously went over the files in the hopes that a key piece of information would eventually emerge. The case of Maria Ridulph's kidnapping and murder ran into a number of roadblocks along the way in spite of the tireless efforts of the investigators and the community. As time went on, leads grew stale, and it got harder and harder to bring people to justice. Johnny, the young man who was last seen with Maria, was one of many suspects identified during the initial investigation into Maria's disappearance and subsequent murder. However, the case against Johnny ultimately failed because the evidence was still circumstantial. Over time, additional suspects surfaced, and the investigation began to focus on their names. However, in each case, the evidence was insufficient to prove their guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Time has worn away important facts and witness memories, making it challenging to piece together a coherent story. Despite careful examination, the physical evidence gathered in the early stages of the investigation frequently lacked the forensic advances required for a conclusive breakthrough. As a result, the case entered a period of inaction, with promising avenues producing little discernible advancement and leads running dry. But amid the bleak trails, there were glimmers of hope due to the tenacity of Maria's family, the unwavering dedication of law enforcement, and technological advancements. For instance, DNA analysis allowed investigators to re-examine evidence gathered decades earlier, potentially illuminating the case in a new way. Armed with determination and the most recent investigative methods, cold case units reviewed old files in search of any overlooked clues. Maria Ridulph's case hasn't been solved despite all of these efforts, leaving her family and the neighborhood in a constant state of anguish and grief. They are still plagued by the unanswered questions, and seeking justice is still their top priority. The difficulties encountered in unsolved crimes are starkly brought to light by the cold trails in Maria's case. Growing older makes it more challenging to find new leads, and witnesses' fading memories can obscure important details. But the desire to learn the truth endures unwaveringly. The Sycamore neighborhood and committed detectives have steadfastly resisted letting Maria's case go unsolved. Periodic media coverage of the case has kept the public informed and inspired people to come forward with any information that might lead to a breakthrough. Even in the face of what seemed to be insurmountable obstacles, the hope for a resolution remains strong. The memory of Maria Ridulph endures in the absence of a conclusive resolution. Her experience serves as a reminder that the search for the truth must continue and that justice has no time limit. It is an appeal to society to be watchful in the face of unsolved mysteries and a reminder to never forget the victims and their families. The case of Maria Ridulph's murder and abduction serves as a chilling reminder of the danger that resides within us. It is evidence of the enduring suffering experienced by those who cared about her and of the tenacity of a neighborhood committed to seeking redress. The unsolved nature of this case serves as a metaphor for the unwavering dedication to finding the truth no matter how long it takes. Thank you for joining us today on this terrifying journey into Maria Ridulph's past. Please get in touch with the local authorities if you have any information that could aid in this case's resolution. For more compelling true crime stories, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Stay safe and cherish your loved ones until we meet again.